Another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line.
Hello.
Your floor's missing piece. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
All right, let's go out to those Checkmate Coatings phone lines right now. Pete Prisco, senior NFL columnist for CBSSports.com, was in attendance for a couple of Jags practices earlier this week with the pads on, and Pete joins us this morning on Jaguars Today. Pete, good morning. How are you, man?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Good to have you on, bud. Good to see you out there. I know you had a chance to have a sit-down with Travis Hunter, so we'll start there. We know what the plan is. We know what he feels he's capable of doing. What do you feel Travis Hunter is capable of doing as a rookie in the NFL?
You know, Mike, I thought when he was drafted and they gave all that lip service, he's going to play both ways. I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way, not in this league. And I just didn't see that being possible. But the more and more I talk to everybody there, and the more and more I, talk to him, and I just get the feel that he is going to play both ways, and he's going to start both ways. I mean, he's going to start at corner, and I think he's going to start at wide receiver. And one of the things is that they're better on offense when he's on the field. And so why wouldn't you have him on the field? And he thinks he can play every play. I don't think he can play every play, but I think it's going to be close. I think he can play every play on defense, and I think he's going to play close to every play on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Pete, because one thing that Tony and I bring up a lot, he did that playing 115, 120 plays at Colorado at a mile-high altitude, right? Now, the trade-off is the humidity, right? You got to do it in the swamp-like air down here. But I think, you think about that thin air, and he did it at thin air
and
altitude.
The lightning pace of college offense.
Right. Yeah. And I get it. I'm not saying he's challenged on every play the way he's going to be challenged in the NFL. I think it's an oversimplification. We saw Travis Kelce come out a few weeks ago and say, hey, teams are just going to run him deep and test his conditioning. First of all, I think his conditioning is elite tier, but if he's lined up on Jamar Chase, they're not just going to make Jamar Chase a decoy all day, right? You can't wreck your offensive game plan just to try to tire out one player, can you?
No, and the other part of that is there's certain plays where you don't do a lot anyway. I mean, whether you're the receiver and you're blocking outside, you're not running a ton. You got to do some stuff, but you're not running a ton. So I think I never thought it would be possible, but as somebody there told me, they said they think he has the endurance of a marathon runner. Which, think about that for a second. I mean, there's got to be something different about him. And you talk to him, and does he do extra sprinting and running? He doesn't do anything more. It's just natural. So he has some kind of special endurance to be able to do that. I mean, the day I was there, what was that, Tuesday? It was as hot as it's been on that practice field. Okay, it was 101 that day.
Yes.
And he came over and sat with me, and I said, "Hot enough for you guys?" That wasn't bad. And it's just like I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, And so I do think that he can play both ways. I think he will play both ways, and I think he's going to be a playmaker both ways.
How confident are you, Pete, that Trevor Lawrence is ready to have a breakout kind of season this year?
I'm probably more bullish on Trevor Lawrence than most people. I really am. I just think that there's been a lot of circumstances that worked against him. Started with Urban Meyer, the injuries. When he's been on the field, he's done a lot of good things. I think fixing his motion, fixing his mechanics, quickening his release point, I think that's all helped, and I think you can see it on the practice field. So I'm bullish on him. I think he's going to have a good year. And, for example, the play, we were there that day, the play where he hit De'Ami Brown on the deep crosser over the top, he called that play. Liam Coen told me after practice, he said that was his play. He insisted on that, wanted that play, and said, I want to run that. He ran it, and he hit it. That's a really good sign. And he's picked up the offense really well. So I think he's one of those guys that in this system, run the ball, get the ball out, make a decision, boom, and go. I think he's going to be much better. And I think that, he knows it. I talked to him in May. He knows it's a big year for him. He's got to go prove to a bunch of people. There's a lot of skeptics outside of Jacksonville that don't believe in him. And he's given them some reason not to. But I think he knows this is a big year for him.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Pete. The only thing that gives me any kind of trepidation there is, it seemed like for a period of a few years, every year, we're going to tighten up Byron Leftwich's mechanics, right? We're going to teach him. He's not going to have that big loop in his delivery. And once we do that, it's going to take him to a new level. But then you got him into a game situation. He did it all on the practice field. and, the phrase, the bullets are live, and you revert back to years and years of muscle memory. So that's what I'm waiting to see with Trevor, with the footwork, with the quickness of the release and all those things. Does that hold up in actual game-type situations?
It's interesting. I didn't realize this, but I guess he had only thrown one interception all the entire training camp at the time I was there. So I don't know if he threw any yesterday or today, but he had only thrown one. And they liked that. I mean, they thought that. They were concerned that they haven't had a lot of contested catches. And not necessarily that that's on the quarterback, but they haven't had the contested catches down the field. And so that's something they're going to keep an eye on going forward. But I think when you look at him, I think he seems more confident. He looks more confident. He's got more playmakers. The offense is designed to work. I love the offensive design. I think it's going to be very successful. So there's no excuses for him. If he's healthy, he's got to go out there and do it. If he doesn't do it this year, you go into next year, you got major questions.
Do you think the Jaguars' offensive line is improved enough to allow them to compete for the AFC South this year?
Well, a couple things have to be in play. One, the right tackle, who clearly they put a foot in his behind and said, go, you got to be better. And from what I've been told and heard, he has been. That's a big step in the right direction because he has to be focused. And why he isn't, I have no idea, because he's got a lot of talent. So he's got to be ready to go. I think he will be. The right guard, look, they signed two guys there. There's a competition there. It's legitimate, and I think there will be a competition there. The center will be an upgrade because he knows what he's doing. He's comfortable. He understands it. I think they had problems at that position the last couple of years. The left guard, and he's a guy, when you look at him, you say, okay, can he be physical enough in the run game? And so there are some questions about him there. But you drafted, in Mike interviewed him the other day, Milam, and Milam's a tough guy, big physical guy. You move him to guard. Competition's good. And then left tackle, look, is Walker Little good enough? Probably. Is he great? No. And so you're kind of in the same situation you've been in for a long time since Tony Baselli walked out the door. You have questions at left tackle. So are they good enough, Tony? Maybe. But a lot of things have to get answered there.
Yeah, it isn't the right guard thing. The fact that there's competition, I think, is interesting, Pete, because I think when they signed McCary and you saw the contract, and yes, he's got great versatility, but I think most of us just penciled in, all right, that's going to be the right guard. And I think this is a testament to how well Chuma Edoga has played and practiced and opened eyes down there, because I've continued to hear his name, and he's taking advantage of those reps at right guard right now.
And then you also, McCary can go play left guard. I mean, he could have more competition over there.
He can play center.
That's what you want from your group. And the other thing is I've heard good things about Monheim, the center. He's played really well for him so far. They like him. You mentioned, you talked to Milam. Milam's had a good camp. You have developmental guys now. That's something that they kind of forgot about there for a long time. And they never, Cooper Hodges was probably going to be a developmental guy until, he got his knee all ripped up. But
right.
You got to have developmental guys for those instances when a guy does go down, he goes in and plays, and then if the guy gets too expensive, he can become the starter. They don't have that, and they haven't had that. So I think that's important to see some of those young guys develop too.
Pete, what has been your reaction to the Jaguars being willing to apparently bet on the move of Arik Armstead back to defensive tackle, year 2 growth from Mason Smith being enough for the interior of this defensive line going into the season? It was a big question mark for a lot of people going into the offseason. They've apparently been willing to make this bet. What's been your reaction to that?
I still think that they might look around and try and find something there. You need help there. I really believe that, particularly since Armstead decides he doesn't want to practice certain days. I mean, come on, give me a break. He Veteran Day, got to get in there. And I know he's a little dinged up, but you got to get in there and practice. And so that's concerning. Mason Smith, same thing. I mean, but Mason Smith was, from everything you heard, he's had a great offseason. He just got dinged up. But he's a guy that needs to play as well. I think that's one position. Again, we talk about running the ball and stopping the run. And to run the ball, you got to be good on the offensive line. And to stop the run, you got to be good on that interior. If those guys aren't very good, they're going to have problems stopping the run. And what does that do? It neutralizes the strength of your defense, which is to be able to turn those pass rushers.
Pete, what do you expect out of Devin Lloyd this year?
I think he's good against the run, and he's not good against the pass. And I don't know instinctively if that's going to change. I don't, I think Aluakon's a good, steady player. He's not. Where are the wow plays for him? I just, there aren't a ton of wow plays. I think Gardeck is going to be a nice addition as a Sam linebacker, and you can rush the passer a little bit with him. I think that'll be good when he's back now, so I think that'll be impressive. He's a good football player. He's a tough guy. He's good to have around. Kaiser, I think, is one to keep an eye on. I think Kaiser down the road will end up playing some snaps for him at linebacker, but it's not a great – despite all the picks and all the assets that they've used at that position, still not a great pick.
Where do you think the team will be most improved from last year?
Corner. I think if Travis Hunter plays corner, I've heard, and you guys have been there more than me, but Tyson Campbell supposedly had a great camp. I mean, he's actually supposedly been the best corner of all of them so far. And if he can get his game, because, he got the contract and played to it, but this system seems to be better for him. If you get him, Hunter, and Lewis playing together, and then you can bring in Jones if Hunter can't go, then I think you have a pretty good group of corners, which that's been a problem for them. They give up a lot of big plays. And I think on the back end, look, Murray's not a sexy player, but he's a good, steady veteran. Every team needs to have a steady veteran back there. I think Ransaw is going to be the guy down the road. I really do. I think that kid has a ton of potential to be a big hitting, run-around safety who can do a lot of things. I mean, he's playing nickel, too. He can do a lot of things. And I think that'll give them a little bit of boost in speed on the back end when he eventually goes in there.
Yeah, it's disappointing. He week to week now with a lower body issue that he's got, so we'll see. Hopefully,
but it wasn't a bit. This one was supposedly, they thought at first it might be concerned bad, but I guess it wasn't. But here's the other thing. I guess Antonio Johnson trimmed down and had a good camp.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about last year, guys, is they wanted everybody bigger, get slower. I guess somebody was telling me that Cisco was up with the Jets camp talking about how he's lighter now and leaner, and he's actually running with the first team up there. And he said, look, they maybe get too heavy, and I couldn't run around. And he also turned down tackles, but that's a whole nother story. But and the story that the defensive coordinator came into the meeting room and threw a bunch of meat on the table and said, "Mass kicks ass," or whatever, and they all laughed at him, but they all gained the weight, and it didn't work.
Right. Let's turn 17.5 sack guy into something he wasn't, and let's see if it's just as good. I mean, it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but certainly in hindsight.
Anthony Campanile will be a head coach in the NFL.
You think so?
Yes. And in talking, not just the players love him, by the way. The players love the scheme. They love him. And they love the way he teaches. But just in talking to people in that organization about him, the teaching aspect of it, they say it reminds them of some of the great defensive coordinators that have been in this league in the past. And I think he has the right demeanor. I think he's going to be a head coach. I really do. It's not necessarily going to happen next year. But I think down the road, if he can get that defense playing the way I think he can get it playing, I do think he's going to be a head coach.
Yeah, players all universally rave about him, but you often do that with a new coach coming in regardless.
They didn't rave about Ryan Nielsen.
Not so much, right? Last one for you, Pete. Liam Coen, we don't know. I mean, the win-loss record is ultimately how we're going to judge him, but how he has gone about his business in his first offseason as a head coach, how do you think he's conducted himself?
Again, we won't know until, it's
Sure.
1 and 2. But I think the toughest task for a guy like Liam Coen, and it's always that way when you go from a hot coordinator to become a head coach, is he's great when it's out on the field on the grass, as he likes to say. That's the buzzword now in the NFL. We're out on the grass. You get out on the grass. He's perfect. I think he's got the right demeanor. He understands what it takes, and he'll be good from that aspect. The question with all those guys is, what happens with all this stuff going on when you're 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or whatever? How do you handle that as a head coach? And that's what we don't know. That's the question about him that's unanswered right now. So, I think offensively they're going to be much better. I think the design's better. I think his demeanor is good, the way he handles the team. They seem to respond to him. But again, we don't know because he's a coordinator who's been a really good coordinator who has to now do everything. And it's hard sometimes to separate the two. You want to, in those moments, you want to be a guy who goes into the room and says, look, I'm going to go fix the offense, and I'm going to, but you can't be that guy. You have to handle the whole room. We don't know how he'll handle that. I think he's going to be pretty good at it, but we'll see. We don't have any idea until it happens.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey here, thanking you so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars on YouTube. But before you click away, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and be sure to check out our other team-specific channels on the 1010XL network on YouTube.